不是，我都给。
Welcome to the fascinating world of Japan's unique cultural norms. In this journey, we'll uncover some taboos that are integral to understanding and respecting Japanese culture.
Don't blow your nose in public. It's really a no-no in Japan.
From the silence echoed in trains to the ritual of removing shoes indoors, each one peeling back layers of cultural nuance. Are you ready to explore these unspoken rules and discover what makes Japan so distinctively respectful and orderly? Join us as we have a look at the top 20 taboos in Japan.
Scale between 1 and 4.
Okay.
How dangerous is the number 4?
4 is not dangerous, it just sounds not good.
Number 1. Silence in public transport. Have you ever boarded a train in Japan and noticed an almost reverent hush? The silence is no accident, but a deeply ingrained aspect of Japanese culture. In Japan, public transportation is not only a means to get from point A to point B, it's a space where respect for others' peace is paramount. It's considered impolite to talk loudly on a phone, have a boisterous conversation, or play music without headphones. This quiet atmosphere is maintained not through strict laws, but through a collective understanding and respect for shared space. Even announcements are made in a soft and unobtrusive voice. The tranquility offers a glimpse into the Japanese ethos of selfless hospitality, where the comfort and well-being of others are placed above one's own. So the next time that you're in Japan, embrace this hushed commute as a moment of zen in your day. Number 2. Shoes off indoors.
Whoops.
Imagine walking into a Japanese home and noticing neatly lined up shoes at the entrance. This is your first cue to an essential rule. Remove your shoes before stepping inside. This practice, deeply rooted in cleanliness and respect, extends beyond homes into certain restaurants, temples, and even some schools. It's not only about dirt. Removing your shoes symbolizes leaving the outside world behind and respecting the purity of the indoor space. Slippers are often provided for indoor use, but remember, these too have rules, different slippers for the bathroom. This tradition, while simple, speaks volumes about the Japanese values of cleanliness and respect for personal and shared spaces. When in Japan, slipping off your shoes is not only a physical act, it's stepping into a culture that cherishes and respects cleanliness. Number 3. Tipping is a no-no. Go into any restaurant in Japan and you'll notice something seemingly odd yet profoundly respectful. Tipping is not practiced. In many countries, tipping is a norm, a gesture of appreciation for good service, but in Japan, it's a different story. Here, exceptional service is a standard expectation and a point of pride for those in the service industry, not something warranting extra financial reward. Offering a tip can sometimes be misunderstood as an insult, implying that the service provided is only for monetary gain. This no-tipping culture ties into deeper Japanese principles of selfless hospitality, which means wholeheartedly looking after guests without expectation of reward. Staff are committed to providing the best possible service as part of their job satisfaction and professional pride. So, when you finish a meal, simply pay the bill as presented, because it's not only in a restaurant. These rules also apply to taxi drivers, hotel staff, and other service sectors. Understanding and respecting this aspect of Japanese culture not only eases your journey, but also brings you closer to the heart of Japan's unique approach to hospitality.
没有，是真的是不是为了视频，是真的。
Number 4. Chopstick etiquette. In Japan, chopsticks are not only utensils, they're an extension of one's manners, an embodiment of cultural etiquette. Mastering chopsticks goes well beyond only learning to pick up food. There are specific do's and don'ts that are deeply ingrained in Japanese culture. For instance, never stick out your chopsticks vertically into a bowl of rice. This resembles a ritual performed at funerals. Similarly, passing food directly from your chopsticks to someone else's is a big no-no, as it also has funeral connotations. Always use the opposite end of your chopsticks to transfer food from a shared plate. And let's not forget the faux pas of rubbing your chopsticks together. It's considered rude because it implies that the chopsticks are cheap, and when not in use, you should lay them down in front of you with the tips to the left. These rules are not only about etiquette, they're also a reflection of Japanese values like respect, cleanliness, and harmony, and observing chopstick etiquette is more than just good table manners. It's a sign of respect for Japanese culture and tradition. As you navigate your way through a meal with chopsticks, remember, it's not only about the food, it's also about the experience and the respect that you show in every gesture. Number 5. Direct refusal is rare. In the nuanced tapestry of Japanese communication, direct refusal is a thread rarely woven. This aspect of Japanese culture may seem perplexing to outsiders, but it's deeply rooted in a desire to maintain harmony and avoid confrontation. In Japan, the art of saying no often involves indirect expressions or gentle declines. For instance, rather than outright rejecting an offer, it's common to hear phrases like, "that might be difficult," or "I'll consider it," which in context often means a polite no. This indirectness is not about being evasive, but rather about showing respect and not causing embarrassment or discomfort to the other party. It's a dance of diplomacy where reading between the lines becomes crucial. This approach extends to all aspects of Japanese life, from business meetings to social invitations. Understanding and adapting to this subtly can be challenging, but it's also essential for anyone looking to build relationships or conduct business in Japan. Remember, in the realm of Japanese communication, what is not said is just as important as what is. Number 6. Respect for the queue. Queuing is a mundane activity for many cultures, but is elevated to an art form in Japan. Reflecting the society's deep-rooted respect for order and discipline, the Japanese queue is a symbol of collective harmony, where personal urgency bows to the greater good of orderly conduct. Be it at train stations, bus stops, or even popular restaurants, you'll observe neatly formed lines, often marked by designated waiting spots. This disciplined approach ensures fairness and efficiency, preventing the chaos and discomfort that can arise from jostling crowds. The respect for the queue in Japan transcends mere practicality. It's a microcosm of the society's broader values, like respect for others, patience, and self-discipline. This adherence to queuing is not enforced by any strict rules or regulations, but is a product of a shared cultural understanding. As a visitor, respecting this unspoken rule is not only about blending in, it's about showing respect for the principles that hold Japanese society together. So when in Japan, do as the Japanese do, find the end of the line and wait your turn. Number 7. Photography restrictions. In Japan, a country where tradition intertwines with modernity, photography is not always a straightforward affair. While it's tempting to capture the beauty of its landscapes, architecture, and people, there are certain restrictions that photographers should be aware of. In many sacred places like temples, shrines, and certain gardens, photography may be restricted or prohibited to preserve the sanctity and atmosphere of these places. Similarly, photographing private property without permission is frowned upon, and in some cases can be illegal. The Japanese value personal privacy highly, so taking photos of individuals without consent, especially in a way that could be considered intrusive, is a cultural taboo. Additionally, while snapping photos of geishas in places like Kyoto may seem like a must-do, it's also important to remember that these are individuals going on about their work and should be respected as such. The key to navigating Japan's photography etiquette is mindfulness and sensitivity towards the culture and people. When in doubt, look for signage or simply ask permission. By being respectful and aware, you can ensure that your photography experience in Japan is both culturally sensitive and rewarding. Number 8. Avoiding public displays of affection. In Japan, the expressions of love and affection, particularly in public, follows a script of subtlety and discretion. Unlike in Western cultures, where public displays of affection are commonplace, in Japan such gestures are considered private and not suitable for public eyes. This doesn't mean that affection isn't shown, rather it's expressed in more understated ways. Holding hands is generally the limit of what's publicly acceptable, while actions like hugging or kissing are reserved for private settings. This cultural norm stems from a more broad Japanese value of modesty and discretion, where drawing attention to oneself in public is often avoided. In a society that values harmony and group cohesion, PDAs can be seen as disruptive or disrespectful to others. For visitors, understanding and respecting this aspect of Japanese culture is crucial. While it might feel restrictive, it's part of the cultural landscape that makes Japan unique. So when exploring the streets of Tokyo or enjoying the tranquility of a Japanese garden, remember that affection is appreciated, just expressed differently. Embracing this subtlety can deepen your appreciation for the nuances of Japanese culture. Number 9. Handling money with care. In Japan, the act of handling money is imbued with a level of respect and care that may seem unusual to visitors. Unlike in many Western cultures, where money changes hands directly or is tossed casually onto a counter, in Japan, it's often placed and received with both hands. This practice is part of a more broad cultural emphasis on respect and mindfulness in every aspect of life, including financial transactions. In many shops, restaurants, and other establishments, you'll find a small tray at the cash register. This is where you should place your money or credit card rather than handing it directly to the cashier. The cashier will then pick it up, process the transaction, and return your change or card on the tray. This method not only shows respect but also ensures that the transaction is transparent and that no physical contact occurs, which is seen as being more polite and hygienic. Additionally, crumpling or mishandling banknotes is frowned upon. Money in Japanese culture is treated with a certain level of reverence, reflecting the values of cleanliness, order, and respect for property. As a visitor, observing these nuances in money handling can enhance your understanding of the meticulous nature of Japanese etiquette. Number 10. Being on time. In Japan, punctuality is not just a courtesy, it's a cornerstone of social and professional etiquette. Being on time or even slightly early is considered a sign of respect and reliability, while being late is seen as a serious breach of etiquette that can reflect poorly on one's own character. This emphasis on timeliness permeates every aspect of Japanese life, from the precisely scheduled public transport system to the business meetings and social engagements. Trains and buses are famed for their on-the-dot punctuality, often up to the minute. In a business context, arriving late for a meeting can be seen as a sign of disrespect and poor organization. In social settings, while a little more flexibility might be tolerated, it's still expected that one will arrive at the agreed-upon time. This cultural norm stems from a more broad sense of respect for others' time and the smooth functioning of society as a whole. For visitors, adapting to this aspect of Japanese culture means planning ahead and allowing extra time to ensure punctuality. By doing so, you demonstrate respect and understanding of the fundamental value in Japanese society, smoothing your way both in professional and social interactions. Number 11. Recycling rules. In Japan, recycling is not only a practice, but a meticulously observed responsibility, reflecting the country's deep commitment to environmental conservation and order. The rules for recycling are extensive and strictly adhered to, often surprising visitors with their complexity. Waste is meticulously separated into categories: burnable, non-burnable, recyclable, and large-sized garbage. Specific rules govern how each type of waste should be disposed of, including the separation of plastics, cans, bottles, and paper. And in many municipalities, residents must use designated garbage bags, each color-coded for different types of waste. This adherence to the rules is not only about following the law, it's a reflection of the Japanese ethos of respecting one's own surroundings while contributing to the community's well-being. Non-compliance isn't only frowned upon, it can lead to reprimands from neighbors or local authorities. For visitors, understanding and following these recycling norms is crucial. It shows respect for the local community and the environment. So when you're in Japan, you should pay close attention to the recycling signs and guidelines. Your efforts to navigate this complex system will be appreciated and will provide a deeper insight into the meticulous nature of Japanese society. Number 12. The importance of apologizing. In Japan, the act of apologizing is an integral part of social and professional conduct, underlining the values of respect, responsibility, and humility. Japanese apologies are often about more than just saying sorry. They're about acknowledging mistakes, showing sincere remorse, and a commitment to making amends. This cultural practice is rooted in the importance of maintaining harmony and avoiding conflict in interpersonal relationships. In the business world, for instance, a company's apology for a mistake or inconvenience, often delivered publicly and formally by its highest-ranking officials, is not only a mere formality, it's a crucial step in restoring trust and reputation. In personal interactions, apologizing even for the smallest of inconveniences is very common and is seen as a sign of good manners and empathy. The depth and sincerity of an apology in Japan can sometimes be surprising to outsiders, but it reflects the weight given to personal responsibility and respect for others. For foreigners, understanding the significance of apologizing and adopting this practice can go a long way in building relationships while showing respect for Japanese culture. And remember, in Japan, a heartfelt apology is often the first step towards reconciliation and harmony. Number 13. Avoiding the number 4. In Japan, superstitions hold a subtle yet significant place in everyday life, and one of the most prominent involves the number 4. This stems from the fact that the word for 4 is shi. It's a homophone for death in Japanese.
In Japanese, 4 is shi, and shi means death.
Consequently, this number is often avoided, especially in contexts like hospitals, where it can be considered bad luck or even ominous. For instance, many buildings will skip the 4th floor, similar to how some Western buildings omit the 13th floor. In other settings, items in sets, like dishes or gifts, are often presented in numbers other than 4. This avoidance is not only driven by fear, but rather by a desire to avoid potential discomfort or misfortune, respecting an unspoken cultural sensitivity. For visitors, being aware of this superstition is more about understanding and respecting cultural nuances than about changing behavior. When in Japan, observing these small cultural details can enrich your experience and demonstrate respect for Japanese traditions and beliefs. Number 14. Gift-giving customs. Gift-giving in Japan is an art form imbued with deep cultural significance while being governed by a set of intricate customs. It's not merely about the gift, but more about the thought, effort, and even presentation that counts. Gifts are often given to express gratitude, mark special occasions, or even as a form of apology. The act of presenting the gift is as important as the gift itself, typically done with both hands to show respect and sincerity. The packaging as well is crucial. It should be neat and aesthetically pleasing, often wrapped in decorative paper or cloth.
紙ラッピングも含めて、プレゼントだっていう考え方で受け取る方が多いと思いますので、そのいただいたものを粗雑に扱うっていうのはちょっと罪悪。
It's also customary to downplay one's gift, modestly referring to it as a mere token or something small. When receiving a gift, it's polite to initially refuse it lightly to show humility, accepting it on the second offer. Additionally, the concept of reciprocity is key in Japanese gift-giving. Receiving a gift implies the future giving of a gift in return, maintaining a balance in the relationship. For visitors, engaging in this practice can be a delightful way to connect with Japanese culture. And remember, it's the gesture and the way that it's carried out that truly embodies the spirit of Japanese gift-giving. Number 15. Not blowing your nose in public. In Japan, hygiene and public decorum are taken quite seriously, and this extends into the practice of blowing one's nose. Blowing your nose in public, especially in a loud and conspicuous manner, is considered impolite and somewhat distasteful. It's a stark contrast to many Western cultures, where blowing one's nose is generally accepted as a normal response to a common need. In Japanese society, the emphasis is on minimizing any actions that may be deemed disruptive or offensive to others.
Don't blow your nose in public. It's really a no-no in Japan.
This sensitivity stems from a more broad cultural value of maintaining harmony and respect in public space. If you need to blow your nose while in Japan, it's advisable to excuse yourself and find a more private setting like a restroom. Carrying a small packet of tissues is common, and discreetly using them for a quick nose dab is acceptable. Understanding and adhering to these unspoken rules not only helps to avoid awkward situations, but also shows respect for the Japanese culture's emphasis on public decorum and consideration for others. Number 16. Keeping tattoos hidden. In Japan, tattoos carry a complex and somewhat controversial cultural significance. Historically, tattoos have been associated with the Yakuza, the Japanese criminal underworld, leading to a broader societal stigma. As a result, having visible tattoos can sometimes be met with apprehension or disapproval, particularly amongst the older generation.
Really old guy, Japanese guy, came to me and he looked really angry. And then he came by and...
This cultural perspective has practical implications, particularly in public spaces like hot springs, gyms, and swimming pools, where tattoos are often prohibited. For travelers with tattoos, this can pose quite the challenge. It's advisable to cover them up with clothing or use specially designed patches when visiting a public space. The attitude towards tattoos in Japan is slowly evolving, especially amongst the younger generation and in urban areas. But the traditional views still hold significant sway. As a visitor, being mindful of this cultural sensitivity while taking steps to respectfully conform to these norms is crucial. It demonstrates an understanding and respect for the complexities of Japanese culture and helps avoid potential misunderstandings and discomfort. Number 17. Drug prohibitions. Japan's approach to drug control is one of the strictest globally, reflecting a deep-rooted societal attitude towards drugs and a commitment to public health and safety. This stringent stance encompasses both recreational and certain prescription drugs, with severe legal repercussions for violations. The country's zero-tolerance policy toward illegal drugs is backed by comprehensive law. Possession, use, and trafficking of drugs like marijuana, stimulants, narcotics, and more can carry heavy penalties, including long prison sentences and substantial fines. Even small quantities can result in significant legal consequence. Visitors and expatriates have often found themselves in legal troubles due to unawareness or disregard for the strict norms. Prescription medications that contain substances like pseudoephedrine, commonly found in over-the-counter cold medicines in other countries, and certain painkillers are prohibited. Foreign residents and travelers are advised to carry a doctor's note or prescription in Japanese, and they should verify the legality of their medicines before entering Japan. Number 18. Respecting sacred spaces. In Japan, sacred spaces such as Shinto shrines and Buddhist temples are not only places of worship, but also repositories of cultural heritage and spiritual tranquility. The reverence for these spaces is deeply woven into the fabric of Japanese culture, demanding a high level of respect and decorum from both locals and visitors. When entering these places, certain etiquettes and customs are expected to be followed. The first step often involves purification, which may include washing your hands or mouth at a purification fountain near the entrance. This act symbolizes cleansing oneself before approaching a sacred area. Behavior in these spaces should be characterized by quietness and respect. Loud conversations, laughter, and phone usage are considered disrespectful. Photography is often allowed, but should be undertaken discreetly and sensitively, with attention to any specific restrictions, particularly during religious ceremonies in designated areas. Dress code in these places is another aspect where respect is demonstrated. Visitors are expected to wear modest clothing, avoiding overly casual, revealing, or flashy attire. This respect for dress code extends to headwear and footwear. Removing hats, and in some cases the shoes, is a great sign of respect. Number 19. Japanese work ethic. The Japanese work ethic is a blending of dedication, loyalty, and collective responsibility that defines characteristics of the country's business culture. Rooted in the concept of shigoto, work in Japan is often seen not only as a means to an end, but as a reflection of one's own identity and societal contribution. This ethos manifests in several distinctive ways. Firstly, there's the commitment to quality and precision. Japanese workers are known for their meticulous attention to detail, striving for perfection in even the smallest of tasks. This pursuit of excellence is deeply ingrained, reflecting a broader cultural respect for craftsmanship and mastery. Loyalty and group harmony also play crucial roles. Employees will often exhibit a strong allegiance to their company, sometimes staying with the same employer all throughout their entire career. This loyalty is reciprocal, with companies traditionally providing job security while fostering a familial work environment. Decision-making is typically a collective process, valuing consensus and group cohesion over individual opinion. This approach, while promoting harmony, can sometimes lead to slower decision-making processes. Work life in Japan is also characterized by long hours. The practice of after-work drinking sessions, although declining, still reflects the importance of socializing with colleagues to build a work relationship. However, this intense commitment to work also has its drawbacks, such as the phenomenon of death from overwork. Recognizing these challenges, there's an evolving conversation in Japan about achieving a healthier work-life balance. Number 20. Avoiding certain topics in conversation. In Japan, where social harmony and respect are highly valued, certain topics are typically avoided in conversation to maintain a comfortable and non-confrontational atmosphere. This approach to communication is deeply embedded in the Japanese cultural context, and understanding it is crucial for smooth social interaction. First and foremost, topics that can lead to a disagreement or controversy like politics, personal finances, religion, and divisive social issues are usually sidestepped. These subjects are often considered too personal or sensitive to be discussed in casual or formal settings, especially with acquaintances or in professional environments. This is reflective of the Japanese preference for maintaining a harmony in interactions. Questions or comments about personal matters such as age, marital status, weight, or income are also considered impolite and invasive. Japanese culture values privacy and discretion, and such direct inquiries can be perceived as a violation of these norms. Conversations in Japan can focus on more neutral and universally agreeable topics, discussing things like food, travel, weather, and certain aspects of culture like entertainment are common and considered safe. Compliments, though appreciated, are often met with humility, and self-deprecation is a common and socially acceptable response. The modesty is a reflection of the Japanese value of not appearing boastful or egotistical.